You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious.
Now, we got a lot of people who say, "Oh, why do you go on about American politics?" And other people love it because they do. Because whether you like it or not, still it is the most important country in the world for a whole lot of reasons. And we're about to see if a man who was the former president, Donald J. Trump, the 45th president, can become the 47th president. And he is running against, words fail me, who he's running against, but we're going to discuss this and a couple of other things with a man who is a regular and has secured a venue for a function coming up. And he might tell us about that. And he's a film producer and filmmaker. And it's Dick from Muff, Richard Wollstonecroft from the Melbourne Underground Film Festival. Dick, welcome.
That's it, mate. Dick the Muff Man is here on the line. And yes, the venue is secured thanks to the You Can't Be Serious podcast, mate. Someone from the show reached out. So it's the Black Sheep in Hawthorne. So again, thank you.
No, and it's a boutique venue, is it, or what is it? What's on offer there, Dickie?
It's a bar, and it's got kind of spaces out the back where we can do screenings. So it's perfect for what we're doing. So,
and is there a charge to get in? Is the food provided? Is there alcohol, or is it what is it?
You can buy alcohol, obviously, there at the bar, and there's like a $10 or $15 charge to get in to see the films. And, there'll be some food there as well. I think the place puts on food. So,
So it'd be like-minded people of you who like different or alternate films and screenings, and you might just press the flesh and chat, and it might be a diverse day out from what you're normally used to, Dick. Is that fair to say?
That's a fair comment, mate. I think that's a very fair comment.
Oh, good. I should have done your publicity for you.
We'll get you on board.
When is it?
It's coming up December the 8th to the 13th. We've just put out the teaser poster, which is a tribute to Frank Housen, who passed away.
I saw that, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
And did you say someone was going to play the piano, or was that a different venue?
That's it. We're doing an exhibition at Montsalvat in November.
Yes, that's right. That's correct. Now, Dick. Dick, mate. Just I know you send me a lot of stuff, which I appreciate. You sent me the Lydia Thorpe stuff.
That's unbelievable.
No, but I just was speaking to Greg Evans, who was on before you, and I said, I appreciate Lydia Thorpe doing stuff like that, dressing up like a clown and going shouting at the king, because that just reinforces the fact that you'd never let anyone like that ever get anywhere near the powers that run this country. And I think it's fantastic that she does that, because that just reinforces an opinion that you might have had.
Goal.
What?
She's a bit of an own goal in the sense of she's secretly working for the right, because she just alienates everybody. You know what I mean? All the Labor Party would have just been groaning. You know what I mean? They got the king there, they're in power. And that happens. It's like,
good on her. I think she's done well. She's managed to make it dressed up in, I don't know, she had a bear suit on or something, or a wombat dress or something.
Halloween thing.
It's fantastic. Halloween, that's right. It was a Halloween dress. Good on her. No, as I say, I said to someone she'd either been shot or put in prison if she'd done that in half the other countries in this world. But the very fact that she can do it here, I think Dick Smith said, the very fact that she can do that here without going to jail shows you just what a great country we have. So there we are. Now,
certainly couldn't do it. Now, Dick, or somewhere like that. It's got less majest or whatever. So yeah.
Now,
yep.
I'm unabashed Trump fan, and I'm getting nervous and a little reticent about whether that man. I'm not believing all the chat that he says he's home and hosed, because I still think they got 2 days to kill him. And 2 weeks to kill him, or they've got 2 weeks to find some extraordinary reason why he won't be the president. And you sent me a thing, or did I see it? Someone else sent about an investigation into the 2020 election where they found multiple by a bipartisan committee, multiple instances of election fraud, election engineering, and fraudulent, and in fact, it reinforced what Trump said, that the election was stolen, and if they'd just wiped the frown off their face and let him win properly the last election, in 2 weeks his reign would be over and they could never hear from him again because he can only run twice. So, but he's not there yet. They will find some way, because the person he's running against is the most unworthy. It is just extraordinary how stupid and dopey and unprepared that woman is.
I think a lot of the world is agreeing with you, Sam. No, you know what I mean? Like, you know, she had a little bit of a birth when she first appeared, but I think people are listening. I mean, she's going on the shows like The View, which is like as left Democrat friendly as you can get, and stuffing it up. And then in a desperate move, she went on Fox, who actually asked her a few difficult questions for once, and that didn't go very well. So, you know, she's been a disaster. And look, as I said, I have a strong feeling it's looking good for Trump. But, of course, at the moment, you never can tell because of all the various other, you know, maneuvers that have come out of nowhere, you know, like assassination attempts, lawfare, you know, all this kind of stuff.
So they hone in. Go on.
You're right that the 2020 election was rigged. And one of the consequences of there being another Trump presidency is that he will obviously research all that and release it all, right? So he will be able to essentially prove that the 2020 election was rigged if he gets back into the White House. Because that will just, you know, that's exactly not what they want. So, you know, that's why it's they're in double jeopardy at the moment. But essentially, there was a coup in 2020. It wasn't January 6th. It was the election, which was rigged and false.
So they go on about January 6th. They were saying it was an insurrection, and what it was a giant protest which Trump was at pains. He tweeted it, and he's on record on voice. On a recorded voice, him saying that there was to be no violence, protest peacefully, don't break the law. But no, they overlooked that. I tell you, so you've got this, as I saw, the first man, or this is Kamala Harris's husband, whatever his name is. And he's there saying, toxic masculinity is far too prevalent and we've got to just calm down the men in society. I saw him say that this is a man who had sex with his nanny, who had a child to him. Talk about toxic masculinity. He's running his VP, and unlike JD Vance, who is a very noble and legitimate person, Mr. Waltz. He's a proven liar, lied about his army service, said he was in battles when he wasn't, is alleged that he's a sex predator and has got charges from people who have come out of the woodwork. Here's the people running on their side, and you've got Melania Trump, who's a star in anyone's language, and JD Vance. The mob running against Kamala Harris and her acolytes they are so superior. It's bewildering.
It's extraordinary. And one of the things that they do, Sam, is they project. You know what I mean? They say the things that they're guilty of. Like they say that January 6th was a coup. No, the coup was the 2020 election. So that's like a smoke and mirrors thing. You know, like the coup was the election. And you know what I mean? And they got away with it. Roseanne Barr said it very well. She said they stole the United States of America. You know, and they've been occupying it for 3.5 years, illegally, essentially.
And of course, if you want to see the latest coup is they reckon Trump's a threat to democracy. Well, here's a woman who knifed the president in the back, dopey Joe Biden, took over the being the leading candidate for president, without one vote when she ran for president in 2020, did not get one vote of confidence. Was the first first person to drop out because she was unpopular. And they reckon that Trump's a threat to democracy. She's just knifed the bloke who is the president and has stole the running. And she's a sham and a fraud and a virago and a charlatan.
Absolutely. And in psychological terms, that's called projection. You know what I mean? It's when you accuse somebody else of what you were doing. You know what I mean? And they are the threat to democracy because, first of all, they did the coup. And they do all these, there's no way the Republicans are doing that many dodgy things. Not every, the Democrats and Republicans might do some little things to kind of, put their finger on the scale. But, the Democrats have gone absolutely insane with that the last 3.5 years. And I think, people are seeing the disconnect with reality, and they just see so many lies. And, because everything they accuse Trump of is generally a nonsense.
Anyhow,
like the Russia thing. That was just rubbish. And I still bump into left-wing people who go, "Oh, he's Putin's best friend." Like, really? No.
The Hunter laptop, the disowning of the Hunter laptop hoax, that was big. That would have swung the election if the truth had come out about what Hunter Biden was doing on that laptop. But the son of Donald Trump, his laptop is released, say, before the 2016 election, and it's full of Donald Trump Jr. smoking crack and hanging out with prostitutes and, you know what I mean, like, and doing sexual acts. That would have destroyed Trump's campaign. But, you know what I mean, like, it happens to Biden and it's buried and it's ignored. It's called Russian disinformation. And then, of course, it's not. Yes, besides all the sex and the smoking of drugs and all that, the fact that Biden was in the pocket of the Ukraine, the Ukrainians and the Chinese, and had money being funneled into an account 4 or 5 steps away from him, and they even named the cut for the big guy. There was Hunter Biden, his brother, Joe's brother, all the family members, and then the big guy gets his 10%. You can't make it up.
He's the bag man. Essentially, Hunter was the bag man. What happens is they send billions of dollars, to foreign countries like Ukraine, and it's expected there will be kickback, like $100 million here, $200 million there. Ukraine will keep a lot of it, but I don't know what the percentage gets kicked back to various politicians, but that is how the system works.
Anyhow.
And the whole thing about saving democracy in Ukraine, and Zelensky has cancelled the elections. This is exactly the kind of crazy world we live in. We've got to save democracy in Ukraine by removing elections. Apparently.
Anyhow, Dickie, it's no. I'm no point saying I told you so or crowing or say because he ain't there yet. He'll either not get there because they'll kill him or something will happen and that woman will become the president. So we'll just wait to see how. We've only got a fortnight to go. But if he gets in, man, could I single out some people who have just in this country, either they're authors, they're their media personalities, their publications that write, or their media organisations, they write and publish absolute lies and crap. But no good saying that until he gets elected. And if he doesn't, we'll say they get what they deserve. And if that's democracy at work.
Well, it isn't. But, look, I'd say it's looking good at the moment unless there's some other, seismic shift in the next couple of weeks. Look, I even think that, you see messaging from mainstream media that they're even beginning to accept the idea that it could potentially happen, a new Trump presidency. And, that's what it's about, And I think one of the things that will get him over the line is, his position on Israel. He's very strong pro-Israel, and he's for peace. And he will, bring peace on all sides. And he obviously did the Abraham Accords and stuff. I think at the moment, Israel is in a very precarious position. I don't think it will do well under another 4 years of Kamala Harris. So, it needs someone like Trump to protect it and also to, stop that conflict growing into World War III and all this kind of stuff. So
I noticed the Harris campaign dragged Barack Hussein Obama out of the woodwork, out of the cabinet, and brought him out to try and woo the black vote. And I watched him lecturing, speaking to black men, just casually saying, "You are stupid if you don't vote for Kamala Harris. You are stupid." Well, that's a good way to get people on side, telling black people that they're stupid if they don't vote for who they want to. So that's how well he's going. Hillary Clinton.
They say Trump is a racist, but they use this race politics consistently. Again, it's what we were talking about before, projection. You know what I mean? It's like they use the race issue as a division thing. And that's exactly why your critique of Welcome to Country is so poignant. It's because, it's being used to divide people, whereas we should all just be one country. No one hates the Aborigines. People in Australia generally love the Aborigines and we respect them, but we don't need to have that bullshit, at every public event.
I couldn't agree with you more, Dickie. Now, I know I've done this to death with Dan Andrews. I've already spoken to Greg Evans about this, but the lack of self-awareness of that man to accept a position on the board of Origin, a mental health company.
I know, he caused it, didn't he? He caused the
mate. I just thought they'd taken the piss. I thought three people have been taking the piss out of us this week. Jacinda Allen saying they're going to build high-rise public housing in Toorak. Dan Andrews on the board of a health organisation, and Andrew Dillon apologising for the conduct of the Greater West Sydney players. I thought this was sort of almost Art Linkletter used to do that show when they'd surprise people, whatever it was called. I don't know. I thought that they were just taking the piss. This is like a reality show. Those three people: Jacinda Allen, Daniel Andrews and Andrew Dillon. I thought that it's the comedy tour is on.
It is. If there is a youth mental health problem in Victoria, which there probably is one, it was caused by the lockdowns. The fact that
of course,
kids go to school for 2 years. I'm sure you know that if you have young people.
No, it's just it beggars belief that people can. What is wrong with Origin? Who are the people Origin? Who is on the board of that organisation that would have the temerity to say this would be good for our organisation? Get an absolute buffoon who drove this state into the ground, Victoria into the ground, run up a $200 billion debt, has. What is wrong with never blame the people who work for you, blame the people who employ you in the first place. Who is on the board of Origin or whatever it's called?
Yeah, these people believe in a philosophy called creative destruction. So they destroy things first, which is what Daniel Andrews did. I mean, he nearly destroyed the whole state, not just mental health, but, he affected so many things in a very negative way. And then he comes along to fix it. You know what I mean? That's like part of their kind of crazy agenda. They call it Build Back Better. That's like their little terminology or whatever. You know what I mean? But really it's about more control, more monitoring of everybody, all this kind of absolute nonsense. And I think it's falling. Why Trump is so important, because he's clearly not part of that. And it just throws their whole agenda off the track.
Now, I just thought this is how people are just taking the piss out of people. So Ivan texted me this, our old friend Ivan, who we haven't had Ivan on because he likes just to eyeball us when we're in the studio. He's not comfortable doing it on the phone. So, but he says he's texted me this. He said, "What determines a therapy dog? I was in Coles in Port Melbourne, and a guy walks through the aisles with a pit bull. It has a coat on saying therapy dog. The thing was barking like it had seen a burglar. Is this someone taking the piss?" So if you're in the aisle just going for the tinned vegetables or something, and a bloke walks by with a pit bull terrier and it's barking, could you have a pit bull as a therapy dog?
Well, I guess you can. I mean, obviously they're quite a dangerous dog. it would be the last dog you would think would be appropriate for a therapy dog.
What happens if it's barking in the aisle?
Yeah, well, absolutely. If it's barking, it's like leave the shopping centre quickly because they bite. I mean, they can kill people if they get them in the neck. I mean, usually young people. So they're hardly therapy dogs. They're an attack dog. Yeah. And, they're bred to fight and bred to be mean.
I had a friend of mine had a small, it was a Shih Tzu, as a matter of fact. It has a small Shih Tzu. And he was talking in the pub and he said, my Shih Tzu killed a pit bull terrier yesterday. He said, your Shih Tzu killed a pit bull terrier. He said, how would that be? He said it got stuck in his throat.
That'd be right. Exactly. No, it's
humorous,
crazy.
That, wasn't it?
Yeah, very nice.
Anyhow, therapy dogs. Imagine if you got on a plane to Los Angeles and a bloke had a pit bull therapy dog next to you in the seat.
Well, I went to the movies recently and I saw that film Joker 2, and someone had a therapy dog in the cinema, like watching film. And I mean, if it was a well-behaved dog that, there was an empty seat next to the person, if it just sat there and,
It sat in a seat.
No, it didn't. It basically wandered around. I started eating people's popcorn. It came over and slobbered on everybody. And it's like, this is the cinema. Like, I like dogs, but it just felt like this is weird. Having this giant dog in a kind of cinema row where it's obviously cramped and, et cetera. And it's not a space for a dog, really. And, I just couldn't believe they'd done that. But, this is just part of this craziness we're living in. But hopefully we're going to see a return to normality, a return to common sense. I think that's a good, motto at the moment.
You'd be joking, wouldn't you? No, the most uncommon thing about the world we live in is that common sense is uncommon.
Yep, that's very true.
Pretty profound today, Dickie. Now, and I'm not sure we could build a whole lot of people. We're going to speak to Dr. Ben Fordham. He broke some news. He broke some news on his program. He said the Prime Minister, anal. He's bought a $4.3 million property somewhere. He broke that news and it's been confirmed. So we're going to have a chat to him about that and anything else. I'm going to ask him to give his opinion on the AFL's punishment to the Greater West Sydney players for having a private function dobbed in by a snitch, having a private function, and they were being a bit ribald and a bit of satire and gee whiz. Shenanigans. Well, anyhow, this is the world we're living in. The AFL are going to be the monitor of all things that are reasonable and not reasonable, all things that are woke, and they're just going to clamp everything down. And so
they're trying to, aren't they? And I hear you talk about sport a lot, and how that, like sports like football and cricket and things like this, they're not the same, particularly football is not the same used to. It's like they're trying to remove essentially the more, really masculine and more aggressive aspects of these games. Because, again, that's part of their agenda. You know what I mean? That's part of the feminization of everything. I mean, football growing up in the 70s and 80s, it was always larrikins and there were shenanigans. And people would play up a bit. You'd know this more than me, mate. And, it's like this. It's like they're trying to, make it all politically correct and crazy. And they do things like racism probes, like the Collingwood Football Club. It's all bullshit, and they're doing this at Channel 9 at the moment. There's some investigation. This is all part of this.
They insist on footballers who are dumb and stupid, and I was one of them, so I can speak freely. They insist on them being role models when they have no credentials to be role models, but they're just good at football, and they're entertainers, and if they transgress, well, they clamp down on them as though they were some moral arbiters of society. The John McEnroes, the Andre Agassiz, they were all branded by saying you should be a role model, but when they were nothing more than just very good tennis players. Yep.
Are not supposed to be role models. They're supposed to be good sports people.
That's right.
And some, of course, might wish to embrace that, but others might wish to be a bit, a bit wild. And I mean, that was part of the fun of of all these sports and all these things.
And it's
that you would have people who are wild, who are free, who would not go with the flow, and that was fantastic.
And it's a bit like you saying, they accuse you of what they're guilty of themselves. I know personally. Many people in the AFL caravan, in the AFL, who take recreational drugs in very high position. I know people who have lost their license for drink driving, have lost their license for drugs, who I know take recreational drugs, but no one ever investigates or makes that known, because maybe it's just I know this for a fact, and if you ask me to name them, of course I wouldn't. But it's just so hypocritical. That
it's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. This, obviously people who are sports people. If there's anybody who can almost get away with taking drugs, it's them, because they are incredibly fit and healthy. I think the main concerns people have with recreational drugs and things like that is the health concerns. But if you're, one of the fittest people on the planet, doing a bag of cocaine or something isn't going to really, it's going to be like water off a duck's back, mate.
Yeah, I know that, but it is actually illegal. It is actually illegal, Dickie. And we can't have people who are representing a club doing things illegal. Whether the AFL cited what the boys who were dressing up as women and portraying different characters, I don't think that's illegal. And I don't think there was any suggestion they were on drugs. And I don't think there was any suggestion, to my knowledge, that they were alcoholically propelled. They were just doing a bit of satire and parody on some pretty contentious issues. And the AFL have gone apeshit. It is extraordinary. Now, Dick, we can go on. We've got a week to go, and then we'll just see if he's still.
Trump go to McDonald's? That was interesting. Trump went to McDonald's. That was a pretty interesting thing, because he was sort of sending up the fact that Kamala Harris apparently worked at McDonald's, which of course she probably didn't. But that was a tremendous bit of theatre, I thought. That's just classic, what I call classic Trump. You know what I mean? And it's the kind of thing that wins people over too, who might be like sitting on the fence a little.
Well, we'll speak about it next week, and if he's dead by next week, we'll speak about that. And if he's still alive, we'll see what the polls say. So, Dickie?
Well, I think you've got to survive 2 more weeks, mate. I think the manoeuvres in that direction are probably over. I don't know. Maybe they've got some, I guess what you call a November surprise or something that happens just a week before the election.
November surprise will be that they'll kill him. Anyhow, that'll be a surprise. It probably won't be a surprise to a lot of people. Yeah. Anyhow, Dickie, there we are. All the best. Thank you so much.
All the best, Sam.
Good
and
boy.
When are you guys back? When are you?
We're about mid-November. We're just plying our way back. It's a hell of a big country, mate, when you're in a boat that does 10 knots.
And it's all going well, is it? Yeah.
Well, it's going well as we speak. As soon as I hang up, I could walk out the back and there'll be a leak in it somewhere, or something will have exploded. But as we sit here, it's going okay.
Fantastic, mate. And I'm loving the videos you and Sue are making. They're fantastic.
Good on you, mate.
Edit them together. You should edit them together and make a movie out of it. There you go.
Yeah, we're going to speak to the doc now, so all the best.
All right, mate. Bye.
All right.